What's up, everybody? So today, doing the top 100 greatest cards. I'm continuing the top 100 greatest cards. I've done number 100 to number 51. In this video, I'm going to focus on number 50 to number 26. Just mainly because it'd just be easier to break the two videos up. And just as a reminder, basically the way that I categorize these cards, I looked at a bunch of different lists and I tried to put them all together. I tried to consider a bunch of different categories. One of them being the value of the card, one of them being the demand, and then of course the supply of the card. One of them being just the greatness of the player, the overall coolness of the card, and then finally just the overall impact to the hobby. So, without further ado, let me just start with number 50, which is the 1954 Topps Ernie Banks. He's obviously, this is actually his rookie card, and Mr. Cobb, member of the 500 Home Run Club, Ernie Banks being obviously one of the most significant players of Cubs history, and it's actually 1954 Topps is actually the same year as the Hank Aaron rookie, which I will be getting to later. Number 49 is the 1955 Topps Roberto Clemente. He was just a true five-tool talent. He had he had exactly 3,000 hits, which is just kind of random. Obviously, he would have finished with a lot more, but during one of his missions to Nicaragua, the plane that he was in crashed, and I just thought it was interesting. Recently, one of his PSA 10 in February sold for $478,000, just to give you some perspective on how people admire this particular player and the card. Next up is number 48, the 2001 Bowman Chrome Pujols. He was actually named the player of the previous decade, and I always thought it was fascinating that Albert Pujols was taken in the 13th round of the amateur draft. And another thing that's interesting is that Hall of Famer Jimmy Fox and Alex Rodriguez are the only two other players to ever have 30-plus home runs and 100-plus RBIs in 10 consecutive seasons. Number 47. You can see here you could pick up the Superfractor for just $500,000 on eBay today. It's the 2009 Bowman Chrome Mike Trout card. This is obviously his rookie card, and this card was initially numbered to 500. There's a blue refractor autograph numbered to 150 and an orange refractor numbered to 25. Obviously, this is the Superfractor 1 of 1 of, obviously one of the greatest players of the generation today. And number 46, this is the 1914 Baltimore News Babe Ruth. This is actually featuring him in the minor leagues with the Baltimore Orioles. And it wasn't, a couple of years later that he was pitching for the Boston Red Sox. And one of a very, very scarce card, a very, very valuable card. Not the most eye-appealing card, to be completely honest with you, but it does have its own place just because it's such, there's so few copies of this card. There are less than 10 known copies of this particular card, which is kind of crazy. And this is sort of like a minor league card. So I figured I had to get it into my top 50. Number 45, and you can see there's three different versions of it. This is the 1910 T206 Cy Young. This guy had 511 career wins, 749 games pitched, and 7,364 innings, which are all all-time records. Pretty obviously an amazing picture. They named an award after him, and a card that I would love to own. Number 44 is the 1938 Gaudy Joe DiMaggio. This is considered to be his mainstream rookie card, and obviously DiMaggio, along with Ruth and Gehrig and Mantle, are considered to be the greatest Yankee legends of all time. But the thing with DiMaggio is his popularity went beyond baseball. Like, he dated Marilyn Monroe, and he was just this huge icon in New York. And this particular card, there's this card, and then there's like a card without cartoons. But generally speaking, this is considered to be the rookie card. Number 43 is one of my favorite cards, the 1984 Donruss Don Mattingly. And while, you know, some of the demand for this has obviously waned since his retirement, this is considered to still be one of the most important cards of Donruss's existence, and just one of my favorite cards of all time, personally. So I had to put it on my list. Next up at number 42 is the 1958 Topps Roger Maris. This is the only recognized card of the single-season home run champion, and which he's obviously best known for is hitting 61 in 1961. And that's number 42 on my list. Number 41 is the 1948 Leaf Satchel Paige. This particular card is one of the several scarce short prints, and it's just a terribly difficult set to get in really nice condition. There has never been, this card has never been seen in a PSA 9 or higher. This PSA 8 is the highest that's ever been set up for the 1948 Leaf Satchel Paige. Number 40 is it's the 1960 Topps Carl Yastrzemski. And I can't imagine how difficult it probably was to replace. He had the impossible task of replacing Ted Williams, but he did a pretty damn good job. He's actually the last player to hit for the Triple Crown, and just sort of the eye appeal of this card is part of the reason why it has to be included in the top 50 cards ever. Number 39 is the 1975 Topps George Brett. This is also a set that includes the Robin Yount rookie and the Gary Carter rookie, and he was sort of known for his intensity and the clutch hitting, and I'm sure you probably all remember the pine tar incident at Yankee Stadium, but he obviously was a very intense player, one of the greatest third basemen of all time, and just sort of an iconic card. Next up at number 38 is the other one of the greatest third basemen of all time, and it is the 1973 Topps Mike Schmidt rookie. And, again, in my opinion, the greatest third baseman of all time. He had 548 home runs, but I think what a lot of people don't remember is that he had 10 Gold Gloves, and he actually stole 174 bases in his career, which is kind of crazy. Number 37 is the card, finally, that you see here. It's the 1994 Upperdeck Griffey Mantle card. This particular card, there was only 1,000 cards made, and they were randomly inserted into the 1994 Upperdeck First Series retail packs. Obviously, the card features a drawing of Ken Griffey Jr. and Mickey Mantle, and there are very few that have been authenticated. I think only 68 have been authenticated by PSA. So 1,000 cards out there, but not too many that have been graded. And obviously a very, very, in terms of supply and demand, this is one of the most popular cards of all time. Number 36 is the iconic 1969 Topps Reggie Jackson. Jackson sort of reached his popularity reached mythical proportions when he hit 3 home runs in the game 6 of the 1977 World Series, and still remains one of the most popular players of all time. And this particular card is one of the most instantly recognizable cards of all time, and definitely a card that I felt should go in the top 50. Next up at number 35 is the Bill Ripken FF error. And just one of the, literally the most fascinating cards, in my opinion, the greatest error card of all time. Mainly for, number one, the interesting thing about this card is there were dozens of variations of this particular card, this being one of the first variations. And obviously one of the most interesting things to me is that it was created during the highest popularity of cards back in the late 80s, early 90s. And the other interesting thing is that, if this had happened to any other player, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But of course, Bill Ripken is part of baseball royalty, being the brother of Cal Ripken. So it's just kind of crazy. And then there's even a website dedicated to this card. That's how crazy it is. BillRipken.com if you ever want to check it out. Number 34 is the 1910 T205 Ty Cobb. This is the centerpiece of one of the most difficult sets that have ever been manufactured. It's got that gold border, which makes it really hard in terms of grading. And also, this is a 1910 card. I just wanted to throw some of these stats at you. In 1911, Ty Cobb had a .420 batting average, had 248 hits, 47 doubles, 24 triples, 127 RBIs, 147 runs scored, and a .621 slugging percentage, in which case he led the league in all of those categories, as well as stolen bases with 83. So, those numbers are just insanely mind-boggling. So, anyway, number 34, the T205 Ty Cobb. Number 33 is the 1954 Bowman Ted Williams. This card is kind of cool because it comes with an interesting story. Obviously Ted Williams is obviously one of the most significant players of the post-war era. But this particular card, Ted Williams had a exclusive contract with Topps at the time. And this card was slated to be number 66, but then was pulled from production early due to some sort of contract dispute, and his card was eventually replaced by Jim Persall, creating sort of like a legendary rarity for this particular set. So if you're ever wondering why it's so scarce, it's because the card was pulled from the set due to contract disputes. Number 32 is the 1948 Bowman Stan Musial, Stan the Man, who is without a doubt one of baseball's greatest hitters. In 1948, one of his best years, Stan hit .376 with 39 home runs and 131 RBIs and won the NL MVP. Number 31 is the 1991 Topps Desert Shield Chipper Jones card. If you guys have seen my previous videos, I've got probably like 50 of these cards, but I do not own, unfortunately, the Desert Shield version. Supposedly it was rumored that they only distributed about 6,500 to 7,000 sets of the Desert Shield, and obviously they were given out to troops involved in the first Gulf War. And I think what makes it so scarce is I bet you a lot of the cards never made their way back to the States. Just to be careful, I just want to throw that out there. This card is actually highly known for counterfeits. So just if you're interested in buying this, you might be better off buying it already graded. Number 30, another card that's really hard to find in great condition. Number 30, the 1993 SP Derek Jeter card. This card was included as part of 20 cards at the end of the set called the Premier Prospects. It was sort of like a subset. The Premier Prospects are, because of the foil that they were created in, are extremely condition sensitive, to the point where there, I was looking at it the other day, there was 11,868 of these Derek Jeter cards submitted to PSA, with only 17 of them receiving a PSA 10. So, and this is a card from 1993. So only 17 of 11,868 cards got a PSA 10, which is just goes to show how difficult it is to get in great condition. Number 29 is maybe a little bit overrated. The number one card of the to me, one of the greatest sets of all time, the 1952 Topps set, obviously the Andy Pafko card, and it's you know, he's not a household name. There's actually I looked into this. There's actually 0 PSA 9s and only 1 PSA 10 that was ever found, and it actually happened recently. Somebody, I guess a couple of years ago, opened up, I don't know how they had it, but they had a pack of 1952 Topps, and nestled right in the middle of the pack was a 1952 Topps Andy Pafko card. So that is sort of an interesting story behind that. Number 28 is the 1952 Topps Jackie Robinson. This obviously represents Jackie Robinson in his first Topps card issue, and just to me, it's just such an awesome card. It's just sort of like one of those cards that's just in there for the coolness factor. It's actually part of the high numbered set, which was also, you know, the Mickey Mantle card was included in that high numbered set, where a bunch of those cards were sort of dumped into the river, which is why there's so few of the high numbered card sets, and this is one of those cards from the high numbered sets. Number 27 is the 1953 Topps Mantle. I decided to include this. It's become one of those cards it's in such high demand now because the 1952 Topps Mantle has gotten so out of control in terms of the demand and the value of the card that I think a lot of investors have focused on the 1953 Topps card. And just because of the demand and just the card being so iconic, I decided to include it as my number 27 card. And then finally, as part of this video, the 1982 Topps traded Cal Ripken is going to be number 26 on my set. He is known for his consecutive game hitting streak of 2,632 games in a row. Was named to the All-Star team 19 times. And the thing with Cal was, for all of his numbers and accomplishments, he's sort of just remembered for being, like a consistent, class act during an era of just guys with big, egos and, taking steroids. And he's just been that one guy that's, been a clean player, a class act. And I think a lot of people really respect that. So anyway, I just wanted to end on that card. That's actually a card that I'd be very interested in getting for the, at the National. It's something I'll keep a close eye on. So anyway, I'm going to try to finish up the top 100 with 25-1. Hopefully I'll do that before the National. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you're learning something, and hopefully this gives you a sort of a checklist of some of the greatest cards ever. I realize that a lot of these cards are probably way out of everyone's price range, but it is kind of fun to just kind of go through what are the greatest cards of all time. So until next time, I will see you soon. Thanks.